When dealing with toxic people, the first and perhaps most important shift we can make is to detach ourselves from our ego. Toxicity often stems from a place of wounded egos, and the more we allow our egos to engage with toxic behavior, the more power we give to those negative dynamics. Learning to detach from the ego isn't just about ignoring the actions of others, but about fostering a mindset that helps us see beyond personal attacks and not allow these behaviors to define us. This is the foundation for not only protecting our emotional well-being, but also for extricating ourselves from toxic people in a healthy, empowered way. At its core, the ego is the part of ourselves that craves validation, recognition, and control. It is the identity we construct for ourselves in relation to the world around us, shaped by experiences, beliefs, and often the need for approval. The ego thrives on being seen in a positive light, and when this image is threatened, whether by criticism, betrayal, or rejection, the ego reacts defensively. These reactions often fuel toxic behavior, both in ourselves and in others. Toxic people often act from a place of insecurity, and their behavior is a reflection of their struggle with their own ego. Whether it's a need to dominate others, belittle those they perceive as threats, or manipulate situations to maintain control, their actions are deeply connected to an unaddressed sense of self-doubt. The more they feel their ego is under attack or insufficient, the more they seek to elevate themselves by tearing others down. For instance, a person who constantly criticizes or belittles you may do so because they feel inadequate and believe that lowering you will somehow raise their own self-worth. This isn't an excuse for their behavior, but understanding this psychological dynamic can help us disengage emotionally. When we understand that these attacks are driven by someone's insecurities, we can stop seeing them as personal assaults and start recognizing them as manifestations of their inner turmoil. Toxic behavior often arises when people's egos are starved for validation. The need for constant attention, approval, or affirmation becomes an insatiable hunger. Toxic individuals often seek to manipulate others to get the validation they crave, whether through praise, affection, or controlling relationships. They may gaslight you, criticize you, or guilt trip you in an attempt to maintain power and make you question your worth. Their constant need for approval is not a reflection of your value, it is an expression of their own emotional immaturity and insecurity. When you begin to detach from your ego, you no longer rely on external validation to feel good about yourself. The validation you seek should come from within. You start to recognize that your worth is not defined by the opinions, approval, or criticism of others. By fostering internal validation, you build a resilience to toxic behavior. No longer are you emotionally dependent on the praise or approval of others to feel okay about yourself. This sense of self-worth becomes your shield against toxicity, allowing you to navigate relationships with more clarity and self-assurance. Detaching from ego is not about becoming indifferent or disengaged from relationships. It's about cultivating a mindset that allows you to observe toxic behavior without internalizing it or reacting from a place of hurt. When you are attached to your ego, you take toxic behavior personally. You feel offended, defensive, and angry because you believe that the attacks on you are direct reflections of your worth. The more attached you are to your ego, the more power you give to others to hurt you. Detachment is not about suppressing emotions or denying hurt. Instead, it's about creating enough emotional distance to observe the situation with clarity, without the clouded judgment that comes from an ego-driven response. It allows you to take a step back, examine the behavior objectively, and choose how to respond rather than react impulsively. One of the ways to begin cultivating this mindset of detachment is through mindfulness. When you practice mindfulness, you learn to observe your thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them. You recognize when your ego is being triggered, perhaps through anger, hurt, or defensiveness, and you allow yourself the space to breathe and reflect. In moments of toxicity, this practice helps you pause and ask yourself, Is this attack a reflection of my true self, or is it a reflection of their inner struggles? With this clarity, you can distance yourself from the situation and make decisions rooted in your inner peace rather than in the emotional turmoil that toxic people often provoke. One of the most powerful tools in detaching from ego is non-reactivity. Toxic people thrive on reactions. They want to see you angry, upset, or defensive, as it validates their sense of power and control. When you react emotionally to their behavior, you are giving them exactly what they want: your energy and your emotional resources. By learning the power of non-reactivity, you stop giving them this control. Non-reactivity is not about suppressing your emotions, but about consciously choosing not to be manipulated by them. It's about responding thoughtfully rather than impulsively. When someone says something hurtful, instead of immediately defending yourself or lashing out, you take a deep breath, center yourself, and choose a response that aligns with your values and emotional health. You might calmly set a boundary, express your feelings without aggression, or in some cases, choose not to engage at all. The ability to remain calm in the face of provocation is an act of emotional mastery. It demonstrates that you are no longer emotionally dependent on the behavior of others to dictate your mood or self-worth. It's a clear signal to the toxic person that their attempts to manipulate or control you will not succeed. Non-reactivity gives you the space to disengage emotionally and regain control over how you choose to interact with the world around you. Forgiveness is another key element in detaching from ego. Often, when someone behaves toxically, the impulse is to retaliate, to get revenge, or to harbor resentment. This response is rooted in the ego's desire for justice or validation. We want to make them feel what we've felt, to prove that we are not to be trifled with. However, this mindset only perpetuates the cycle of toxicity and keeps us bound to the negative energy of the situation. Forgiveness is not about condoning the toxic behavior, nor is it about reconciling with someone who continues to hurt you. Forgiveness is an act of liberation. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional prison of resentment. When you forgive, you are not saying, "What you did is okay." You are saying, "I refuse to let your actions control my emotions any longer." Forgiveness allows you to detach from the need for revenge or retribution and frees you from the weight of emotional attachment to toxic people. Forgiveness is also a means of healing for yourself. Holding on to anger and resentment only continues to feed the ego's desire for control and justice. In contrast, forgiveness allows you to release that hold and move on with your life. It is a powerful tool for reclaiming your energy and emotional well-being. As you learn to detach from your ego, you also become better at setting healthy boundaries. When you are emotionally attached to the ego, boundaries can be difficult to establish because you fear rejection or conflict. However, when you are no longer driven by the need for validation or approval, boundaries become a tool of self-respect, not a defense mechanism. Healthy boundaries are about protecting your emotional and psychological space. They are not about punishing others, but about preserving your well-being. When you detach from your ego, you become less concerned with how others perceive you and more focused on your own peace. This shift makes it easier to say no, to walk away, or to distance yourself from individuals who continue to drain your energy or cause harm. By setting clear and firm boundaries, you communicate to others that you will no longer tolerate toxic behavior. This not only protects you, but also helps to create healthier, more balanced relationships. Detaching from the ego is a powerful strategy for removing toxic people from your life. When you stop taking things personally, when you stop reacting to every insult or slight, and when you stop seeking validation from others, you free yourself from the emotional grip that toxic individuals can have on you. This detachment doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. It means seeing beyond the ego's need for validation and realizing that toxic behavior is a reflection of the other person's struggles, not your worth. The more you practice detachment, the more you protect your inner peace. You begin to choose your responses with wisdom and compassion, both toward yourself and others. Detaching from ego allows you to make decisions from a place of clarity, which empowers you to create the boundaries necessary to preserve your well-being and to remove toxic individuals from your life. In doing so, you create space for relationships that are rooted in mutual respect, understanding, and emotional health. Did you like the video? If so, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. If you subscribe, you'll receive a notification for the next video in this series, which will focus on the principle of self-preservation and how to prioritize your inner peace when getting rid of toxic people in your life.